January 3rd, 2026. Explosions erupt across Venezuela as the world wakes to breaking headlines. A U.S. strike on a country that had quietly transformed itself into a fortress. Washington claims instability forced its hand, but years of hidden military buildup now come into focus, raising a question that changes everything. How did Venezuela get here? And what was the real purpose behind its fortress strategy? The answers begin where most accounts end. Satellite analysts began piecing together the first visual timeline of Venezuela's transformation long before the January 3rd strikes. Archived images from 2019 revealed border regions that, at the time, looked like any other rural frontier. Patches of jungle, scattered villages, a few paved roads. By 2021, new structures started to appear along the Colombian and Brazilian borders. Rectangular compounds, fenced perimeters, and fresh-cut access roads carved into the brush. An image from late 2022 showed the Pacaya checkpoint with expanded barriers and a National Guard post, while the Santa Elena de Huayren crossing displayed a marked increase in troop deployments and vehicle traffic. Securing clear before and after evidence proved more complex than anticipated. Licensing restrictions delayed access to high-resolution shots from Maxar and Planet Labs, leaving several key stretches of the Orinoco and Apure rivers under review. The most recent available image, dated September 2025, captured La Guaira port, ringed by new fencing and naval patrols, with the main oil terminal encircled by what appeared to be anti-ship barriers. Animated overlays traced the gradual tightening of Venezuela's control nodes, but gaps remained, especially in jungle corridors, where cloud cover and government jamming limited satellite visibility. An imagery expert requesting anonymity, pending licensing approval, flagged 4 dates as critical for establishing the timeline: March 2019, July 2021, November 2022, and September 2025. Each frame added another layer to the story, but the full picture of Venezuela's fortress strategy depends on securing the next set of images. Until then, the evidence remains incomplete, visible enough to raise questions, but not yet detailed enough to answer them. At ground level, Venezuela's security grid took shape through a network of hardened checkpoints, river patrols, and tightly monitored access points. Along the Colombian and Brazilian frontiers, border posts like Pacaya and Santa Elena de Huayren operated around the clock, staffed by National Guard units equipped with armored vehicles and surveillance gear. These outposts did not just slow the flow of migrants and smugglers. They filtered every person and shipment, logging identities, and inspecting cargo with military precision. On the rivers, fast attack boats patrolled the Apure and Orinoco, enforcing a web of interdictions that intercepted hundreds of fuel and gold smuggling attempts each year. The Strategic Riverine Operations Command, established in 2019, expanded its presence by 2023 to more than 50 bases, each one a node in a wider net of control. In the air, Venezuela's Civil Aviation Authority issued regular NOTAMs, closing vast stretches of airspace to civilian traffic and restricting drones near military installations. Flights over Caracas and the La Guaira corridor were routinely grounded or rerouted, especially during periods of heightened tension. These airspace restrictions, logged in international databases, stranded commercial flights, and left airports nearly empty, turning the skies above the capital into a no-go zone, except for military or sanctioned traffic. At the coast, La Guaira port became a showcase of Venezuela's defensive posture. Since 2020, new fencing, guard towers, and naval patrols transformed the harbor into a controlled choke point. The main oil terminal was encircled by anti-ship barriers, while Navy frigates enforced exclusion zones flagged on AIS trackers. Every shipment in or out faced scrutiny, and the port's layered defenses signaled that Venezuela's leverage now rested on who could cross its thresholds, not just what resources it exported. These mechanisms, visible in satellite overlays and shipping logs, made clear that the country's fortress was not just a metaphor. It was a system built to control movement, enforce sovereignty, and project resolve. On November 16, 2025, the USS Gerald R. Ford arrived in the Caribbean, anchoring the first visible phase of U.S. military pressure. Satellite trackers logged its approach days earlier, but the carrier's arrival made the buildup impossible to ignore. 12,000 personnel and dozens of aircraft now operated within striking distance of Venezuela's northern coast. The U.S. Navy's public schedule listed freedom of navigation patrols, but shipping data showed the Ford's strike group shadowing major maritime routes, especially those used for oil exports. By early December, the tempo shifted from presence to enforcement. U.S. destroyers and Coast Guard cutters began intercepting tankers bound for or departing from La Guaira and Puerto Cabello. On December 11th, the first seizure was confirmed. A Panamanian-flagged vessel carrying Venezuelan crude was boarded and escorted to a U.S.-controlled port. Over the next 3 weeks, at least 6 more tankers were detained or diverted, with insurance rates for ships in the region spiking overnight. Behind the scenes, covert operations expanded. In the final days of December, U.S. intelligence teams launched drone surveillance flights deep into Venezuelan territory, targeting cartel supply routes and military convoys. On December 30th, a drone strike hit a cartel docking site near the Orinoco Delta. The attack was never officially acknowledged by either government, but independent flight tracking and local reports confirmed explosions. By New Year's Eve, sanctions on oil companies had tightened, and military strikes on suspected smuggling boats continued. Each step, carrier deployment, maritime interdiction, and covert strikes formed a single arc of mounting pressure. The visible show of force at sea set the stage for invisible reach on land, with every action tightening the grip ahead of January's confrontation. Operation Southern Spear became the official name stamped on the United States assault, carrying a message meant for both American voters and the world. The White House and Pentagon wasted no time framing the strikes as a necessary response to organized crime and terrorism, not a conventional war. In the weeks leading up to January 3rd, the administration designated 2 Venezuelan groups, Tren de Aragua and the Cartel de los Soles, as foreign terrorist organizations under United States law. The Cartel de los Soles, according to United States officials, operated at the highest levels of the Venezuelan military, with President Nicolas Maduro himself accused of running a narco-state. The foreign terrorist organization designation was not just symbolic. Under federal statutes, it allowed the United States to treat these groups and anyone supporting them as legitimate military targets, opening the door for direct action without a formal declaration of war. Press briefings and official statements leaned heavily on this legal framing. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that Maduro and his wife would face narco-terrorism charges in New York, citing indictments first unsealed in 2020. The operation was described as a law enforcement action on an international scale, targeting criminal networks that threatened United States security and regional stability. By labeling the strikes as a counterterrorism measure, the administration sought to justify bypassing congressional authorization and international consultation. The policy language was calculated. This was not regime change for its own sake, but the removal of a criminal enterprise shielded by state power. The message was clear. Operation Southern Spear was not just a military event, but a legal and political statement, with the Foreign Terrorist Organization designations serving as its foundation. At 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time, President Trump posted a brief but explosive message. Nicolas Maduro and his wife had been captured and flown out of Venezuela. The announcement, time-stamped and delivered on Truth Social, landed before dawn had even broken over Caracas. Hours earlier, as explosions rattled the capital and smoke drifted over military bases, President Maduro declared a national state of emergency, accusing the United States of launching an illegal assault on Venezuelan sovereignty. In the same morning cycle, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez appeared on state television, confirming that both Maduro and Celia Flores were missing. She demanded proof of life from Washington, insisting that the world deserved to know their fate. The official accounts stood in direct opposition, one side claiming victory and custody, the other refusing to concede anything beyond disappearance. With no independent verification, the facts themselves became part of the battle, leaving a vacuum where clarity should have been. Within hours of the initial reports, legal experts and aid organizations began raising concerns about the lack of independent verification. While U.S. and Venezuelan officials traded statements, international observers found themselves locked out of the process. No United Nations or International Organization for Migration teams were able to access border zones, and neither agency released refugee or displacement figures in the first 72 hours. This absence of data left a critical gap. No one could confirm how many people were on the move, who was detained, or whether humanitarian needs were being met. Early alerts from non-governmental organizations flagged the risk of uncounted casualties and blocked aid corridors. But without direct access, their warnings remained unsubstantiated. As legal debate unfolded on January 3rd and 4th, the world was left waiting for proof of events, of custody, and of the true scope of the crisis on the ground. Tonight, Venezuela's borders are no longer just lines. They are fault lines in global security. As nations fortify and rivalries harden, power shifts from negotiation to control. The question now is, who defines stability, and at what cost? Stay informed. Tomorrow's headlines will be written on borders like these.